NRL Banter Box is back for another round, and out of a different hairdresser that Lockie Galvin goes to. It's Lil P. I love your hairdo for this particular episode, Lil P.
Hey, Professor, I've really not had the best week. Obviously, with school, I've had a lot of assessments, but that is not what is causing it. That is from the loss of the Broncos and my mighty favourite team, Queensland. They had a very sore loss with only one try, and so did the Broncos, only a disappointing one try. So, can't wait to get into it with you, Professor.
Yeah, there's plenty to unpack there with the woes of both Queensland and the Broncos. So this week's episode, we'll do a recap of the round that was in round 13. We'll also do a mid-year semester 1 report card towards the end of this episode. And we'll also talk about the highlights, lowlights, and anything else that's going on in the game. Now, before we get there, Lil P, who am I this week?
Yeah, well, Professor, this week for Who Am I, it's a very highly requested Who Am I, and I think a couple of our listeners will get this within a flash of lightning. So, who am I? I was born in 2002 on the Gold Coast, where my love of the game grew from playing at grassroots level on the coast. I made my NRL debut in 2021 and quickly became known for my dazzling footwork, flashy plays, and a head full of hair that's almost as famous as my pink boots. I've already pulled on the Maroons jersey for Queensland instead of Origin, although this year I'm not a part of the Maroons team. Young, fearless, and fast as lightning. Who am I? Stay tuned, everyone, and we'll be back with the answer to this week's Who Am I at the end of the episode.
Thanks, Lil P. And who is celebrating their birthday this week?
Yes, so on the 4th of June, we have Tom Starling from the Raiders. On the 5th, the player that I really rate, just not so recently, Selwyn Cobbo of the Broncos. And then we also have a very special listener on the same day as Selwyn Cobbo, and that's Max from Brisbane. So happy birthday, Max. And then on the 6th, we have Jermaine Asako and Ray Stone, both of them from the Dolphins. And then finally, on the 7th, we have Riley Price from the Panthers. Big happy birthday, fellas, and especially happy birthday to Max.
Happy birthday, Max. So this time, Lil P, last week, we had the New South Wales and Queensland men's team about to run onto Suncorp Stadium to open up the State of Origin series. Reflections on what happened on game number 1 for you, Lil P?
Yeah, well, this is a bit of a sensitive topic for me, Professor. I think you would probably expect that by now. I think Queensland, see, it's quite tricky because it's tricky to judge at State of Origin because it's the best of the best players on the field, and it's only the tiny occasional slip-ups that happen, but otherwise it's always great games of football. But yeah, I think Queensland overall, they're a great team, and so are New South Wales, but it all comes down to the player that you are, like overall. Your work with the ball, your speed, your quick thinking, and your tackles, your strength. But I think overall, Queensland, they're not as impressive as New South Wales. They have really strong stars, obviously, Zach Lomax, Nathan Cleary, Latrell Mitchell, like you name them. Everyone has strengths within themselves. And so do Queensland. They're just one slight bump below. So I'm very disappointed that they didn't get any more tries than one. That was actually quite disappointing, and I knew that they could have gotten more. I think Xavier Coates, he was suit for the wing, and he did great on the wing. What's his name? Valentine Holmes. Was he on the wing, Professor?
Yeah, wing or centre, I forget. Yes. I don't know if he's going to be playing in game 2, Lil P. I might make an early call and prediction that he might get dropped.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure about him on last Tuesday night. I personally, if I was coach, I wouldn't have put him on wing. I'd put someone with a lot more quick feet than him. But apart from that, I think Queensland did very well. But Xavier Coates, there was a chunk of the game where he was midair, and Brian To'o was also in front of him, and there was a contest for the ball, and Queensland were over the line. So if he caught it and put it down, there would have been a try. It was clearly that he didn't catch it and that he didn't put it down, but he was quite fighting for that try. But yeah, Brian To'o went to the sin bin for that. But yeah, it's There's something that I like to talk about in Origin, Professor, and that is who scores the try. Because personally, in NRL, the only thing I don't like is when players take the credit for scoring the try, and I don't think that's fair because if it wasn't for Nathan Cleary and that excellent kick to set up Zach Lomax, the try wouldn't have happened. And so that's one thing instead of Origin, the player that scores the try gets most of the credit. But yeah, I think Nathan Cleary, he was one of the players of the matches there, and so was Latrell Mitchell always getting into those tackles, but yeah, not the best game for Queensland, but they are getting there, and I'm still backing them for winning the series overall. What about you, Professor?
Still backing them to win. So a win in Perth and then they'll win in Sydney. That's a big call, Lil P. Yeah, I mean, the Blues exceeded my expectations. I went in with a degree of pessimism, particularly with coach Laurie Daly returning to the New South Wales Blues. The New South Wales performance, I would grade is like a 7 or 8 out of 10. I think they've still got a lot of upside, but Queensland were just poor. They were like 3 or 4 out of 10. Harry Grant, hooker, there's statistics that have come out recently that I think he hasn't won a game playing for Queensland. Could that be true? That's one that I've heard. In 2 games, in the 2 last State of Origin games, so the last game of last year, which was the decider played in Brisbane, Lil P, no tries from Queensland and just 1 try last Wednesday. So in 160 minutes of State of Origin, Queensland have scored 1 try. So there is, as I said, a lot of upside for Queensland, and I would expect that Billy Slater is going to make some changes. But we're not going to see a repeat of that performance. My question to you is, does Daly Cherry-Evans, captain of Queensland, 37-year-old halfback, does he get dropped?
Yeah, Professor, that's a very big question for all Queenslanders in the stadium wearing that jersey. I know DCE, he was actually the oldest Maroon to pull on the jersey on last Tuesday night, and there was also the youngest person to pull on the jersey. Was that Robert Toyer, Professor?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did very well.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah.
He was actually, I think he was suited for that job on the Origin field. But yeah, apart from that, DCE, I don't know if he made a massive difference to the game outcome, and I think that there are a lot stronger players out there from that man. But then again, Queensland wouldn't have that captain if he was dropped. So he does bring immense leadership to the field, but a difference in the score, I'm not too sure about that. So yeah, I'm not sure about DCE for the next couple of games, Professor.
I think Coach Billy Slater will continue with Daly Cherry-Evans. The overreaction by media in particular that are driving this narrative that his job is at risk. It's just a speculation at the moment. I could fully see him return to game 2, and we'll expect a much tighter contest there. Queensland have never won in Perth. They haven't played many games over there, but they're yet to claim a victory in the State of Origin series, and it's an absolute must-win for Queensland to keep the series alive. So teams will be announced on Monday. Next week, Lil P will have a bit to unpack once those sides are announced. What else caught your eye in the NRL action that we saw across the weekend?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to congratulate a player from Manly. That's Nathan Brown. Now, Professor, he scored a try against the Broncos, and it was a very good one. But do you know when the last time he scored a try was?
Oh, yeah, it was like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't last year. It wasn't the year before that. It was 2022 in round 4 that season. So well done to Nathan Brown. History in the making. And you'll be pretty happy with this highlight, Professor. That's the West Tigers, your beloved West Tigers. They almost had one of the best comebacks in NRL history. I heard the commentators saying that they were just 1 or 2 tries off. So they got very close to that record. Very close. But I think they did go into that second half with a lot more confidence and grit, and they did try and claw back, but sadly it was not enough. Ryan Pappenhausen, I loved that offload to Farlongo. It was a great try. Some great footwork in that Storm game as well. And I also liked Josh Adokar from the Eels. He's a very quick person, and he's one that you want on your team. Great with ball, very fast on the field. He's a great person on the field, and it's a great try. So, yeah. Josh Adokar, West Tigers, and Ryan Pappenhausen. Those were my highlights.
Yeah, my highlights then was the Canberra Raiders and Roosters contest that was played on Sunday evening. And the Roosters are not in the top 8, but gee, they look like a great side, Lil P. They were ahead by 10 points in that match and they ended up losing it. But they are meeting a team that just have so much momentum. They're young, they're exciting, and they've picked off teams in a sort of relatively soft draw this year. The Canberra Raiders have a lot of buys remaining for the second half of this season. They're going to land a top 4 spot. Now, that's quite remarkable in the number of experts before the season who were picking that the Raiders would actually win the wooden spoon. But I think based on that Roosters performance, Lil P, the Canberra Raiders are not just a top 4 side. I think they're a genuine title contender now. So it'll be really interesting when they match up with the likes of Melbourne Storm and the Canterbury Bulldogs in the second half of this season. So that's what we liked. We've spoken about State of Origin Game 1. Now, what didn't you like? What were the lowlights from the NRL round?
Yeah, well, Professor, I just don't know what's happening with my Broncos. They are not the team that put 50 points in the Roosters to the start of this season. They were putting 50 or 40 points in their first 3 games on their opposition, who some of the opposition that they versed, they're now in the top 5 or 10. And the Broncos, they're currently sitting at 11th or 12th, I believe.
Correct.
And it's really disappointing from them. They are going into these games with absolutely zero confidence. And, Ben Hunt and Reece Walsh, they're out. So they're some of the key players. And I like to think of the Broncos right now as a storm, not Melbourne Storm, but just a normal storm. Right now, there's the smallest bit of thunder. There's barely any rain. But Ezra Mam right now, he is the last lightning strike for the Broncos. He is basically their last resort and the only player that I have faith in to score these tries and to come into these games with confidence. These other, Shibasaki, Xavier Willison and everyone else, they're not going into these games with confidence. They don't believe that they can actually win the game. And I do know that they have potential. They can win and they can score tries, but they're just not backing themselves. So, yeah, Broncos, they really need more confidence going into these games. And my other low light was also from the Broncos. It was Jordan Ricky yelling at Adam Reynolds, and it was an obvious strip, and Jordan was really, really trying to get at Adam Reynolds. Like, no, it's not. I saw. But yeah, that was a lost captain's challenge there. So
Right.
not great. I think if I was captain as well, I would take Jordan Ricky's word for it. But yeah, you just got to be more.
They didn't challenge for that particular moment, Lil P?
They
didn't do it? Okay.
Yeah, so Jordan Ricky really needs to be more sure when he calls it, those sort of calls. But yeah, not too many lowlights, just one of my beloved teams, the Broncos.
Right. Well, my highlight was on that same game, Little P, Manly and the Broncos, and less about the performance of either team. It was more about the commentary of Mal Meninga on Fox Sports, who spoke about the number of tries that came from kicks that Manly produced. And he repeated that line consistently throughout the commentary and the post-match review. And I just think it's not a good evaluation. And the reason I say that is that if it's from a kick or it's a normal try, it's still 4 points. And so don't discount it. Don't minimize it. It's not a tactic of luck. Sometimes you get a bit lucky, but it's a strategic and a tactical part of the game. And this idea that, it's just kicks and, bounce of the ball, teams get a bit lucky. Well, that wasn't the case with Manly. It was strategic, well executed, and that was a key reason why they won. So that's a bad rap then on Mal. So, Lil P, let's start to wrap things up. We'll have a chat about a mid-year report card of the teams. But before we get there, who am I? Who was it?
Yeah, well, Professor, as I mentioned, it was a very highly requested Who Am I this week, and it was Reece Walsh. Obviously, he's not played recently, I think out with a knee injury from a training, but I believe he will be back soon, and I definitely agree with the pink boots. He is very well known for them. So, yeah, Reece Walsh, everyone. I hope you all got that.
Oh, thanks, Lil P. So let's jump into round 14. Now, this is a round where there's just one bye, and that's the Roosters who'll be on the bye. The next round is State of Origin impact. So we've got 8 games to look forward to, beginning with Thursday night, and this is the Knights. They're at home, and they're taking on the Manly Seagulls. Now, the Knights, what is your rating for the Knights' season performance so far, Lil P?
Well, Professor, I think Fletcher Sharp and Kalen Ponga are probably the only people that I do rate on that team currently. They're probably looking at a C- right now at most.
You're very generous.
At absolute most, yeah, Professor.
Okay.
If I was a teacher and they were my students, I would probably give them a C-. If I was feeling generous, they've not been too great this season. I don't think that they have had many wins. I think that the Las Vegas things actually came out, Professor. They will be in America next year. Is that right?
That's right. They're playing the Dragons in Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, I wonder what the Americans will give them a grade for then, Professor. But C- for the Knights.
Yeah, C-. Okay. And then the Manly Seagulls, and then who do you think's going to win?
Well, Manly, they're a team that's never really at the very top of the leaderboard or the very bottom. They sort of just sit in the middle. They're one of the forgotten teams, so I'd probably give them a C+ right now. Yeah, they're not too great, not too bad. But yeah, I'm probably going to back Manly for winning this one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think for Knights, I give them about an F. They're actually equal last at the moment. They have the worst attack in the competition, averaging 13 points per game. And if the Knights lose this, which I expect they will, this could be lights out for Adam O'Brien. Now, the disclaimer with a lights out Little P is it apparently will cost them $800,000 to sack him due to his contract. So we'll expect Manly the Seagulls to win this one. So then we move into Friday night. 2 very interesting encounters here. We have the Storm. They're at home at Amy Park, and they're taking on the Cowboys. Your rating on each team and who's going to win?
Well, Cowboys have been actually quite decent so far this year. Obviously, I think they were versing West Tigers. Am I right there, Professor?
Storm and Cowboys.
Oh, I mean last round. Did they verse...
I beg your pardon. Yes, they played the Tigers in Townsville, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think they did go into that second half without that much confidence, and that allowed the Tigers to claw back. But I think overall they are a very good team of attack and defence, and they have some pretty sharp kickers on their side. So I'd probably give them a B+ or an A-. Probably.
Okay, you're very generous.
In the middle of that. Yeah, I am a generous person, Professor. So I think a B+ about for Cowboys. Then Melbourne Storm, obviously. I am a Broncos supporter, but if I had to choose another team to support, it'd probably be Storm. They're a really good team. Obviously, got Ryan Pappenhausen, Sua Farlongo, Harry Grant, Jerome Hughes. They have all these superstars up their sleeves, so I'd probably be giving them an A- or an A at this rate. Yeah.
I want to go to your school. You're very generous with your marking, Lil P.
Well, yeah, I do like to give them the best that they could, so I'm going to back Storm for this game to win.
Okay, well, my rating for Storm is B-. They're 4th on the ladder. They've been beaten by the Dragons. They won very ugly against the Titans there on the weekend, and they're just lacking a bit of consistency, Little B. So we'd expect the Storm to convincingly beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys, when you look at the team on paper, they've got so much star power and so many State of Origin stars. I'm going to give them a grading of like C-. I just think they're underperforming. They should be much higher on the ladder. So the second match on Friday night is also a very interesting one. We have the Dolphins. They're coming off a bye. They're playing at Suncorp. and they're taking on the Dragons.
Yeah, well, the Dragons, Professor, they're also another team that haven't been always at the top, always at the bottom. They sort of just sit in the middle as well as Manly. I think that they would probably be sitting at about a C minus or a D plus right now. Yeah, they're not the best team. Obviously, Damien Cook and Valentine Holmes, they're sort of the only strong overall players on their
Yeah,
team. What was the other team that they were versing?
Dolphins and Dragons.
Dolphins.
Yeah,
Yeah, I also quite like the Dolphins this year, Professor. They went into the season, everyone was saying, oh, the Dolphins are going to get the wooden spoon, wooden spoon. They're not going to do too well. I think they're going to do pretty well this season, Professor. They might even make the top 10, which they are currently right now. They won
yeah,
against Storm earlier this season. I'm quite sure about that. And then they've had a couple of other impressive wins. I think that the Dolphins, they're actually a pretty strong team when they get wet weather occasionally, and when they have Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow and Jermaine Azarko, when they have all their stars, they are almost an unstoppable team. So, yeah, I'm going to probably give them a B at the current
yeah,
rate that they are.
yeah. I think so too. They had a wobbly start to the season, but they've beaten the Bulldogs. They've beaten the Storm. They were convincingly beating the Raiders at half time when they lost that one. When they're hot, they're fantastic to watch. So I'd give them about a B or a B plus. I think they will land a top 8 spot. The Dragons, Lil P, they're actually 8th on the ladder. So they're having quite a good season. There are not many people speaking about that team. They've lost many games by 1 point. And they're fighters. They're fighters. But I expect the Dolphins at home will win this one. So then we go on to Saturday. We have the Sharks playing at their home ground there on Shark Stadium, and they're meeting the Warriors. The Warriors are second on the ladder. No, third on the ladder. So what's your evaluation of the Sharks and the Warriors at the mid-year mark?
Well, Warriors, Professor, in previous episodes you have mentioned that they do a very close wins and they just slip by the other team by a very short margin. I think that probably, if I was being honest, I'd probably give them about a C minus actually.
Wow.
I know that they are quite high up on the ladder, but most of their wins are quite lucky ones. So yeah,
Yeah.
C minus for them. Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
going to back Warriors for this one.
And Sharks?
Yeah, well, Sharks, they always do well in Shark Park for me. In my
Yeah.
opinion, Shark Park is always a very nice stadium to play in when Sharks have a home game. They're very die-hard supporters. So, Sharks, I'd probably be giving them B plus. B plus,
Yeah.
B minus, something in the B's range. They're very good. You know, Nico Hines and all of those players, they're on their very best game this season, actually.
Yeah.
They're coming into this round and season very fit and they look ready. They just look ready and poised at their position. So, yeah, I'll probably be backing Sharks for this one, actually, Professor.
Yeah, me too. I like the Sharks. They're at home. They're not a team that's impacted by state of origin commitments, and they're strongly favoured to beat the Warriors. And the Warriors have lost their prop, Mitch Barnett. He's out for the season. So my rating on Sharks would be, well, they're kind of delivering what they would expect to be. They're in and around the top 4 spot without quite landing the 4th spot. They're in 5th at the moment. Warriors, well, they've exceeded expectations. I am expecting them to regress a little bit in the second half of this season. I give them an A minus. So, Lil P, you might be going to this one. It's the Brisbane Broncos, the under fire, under pressure, Madge Maguire side, who are 11th on the ladder, and they're taking on the Titans on Saturday night. What do you think?
Yeah, well, Professor, I don't think I will be going to this one. I don't know if I'm mentally prepared for the Broncos to lose again. And if they do lose to the bottom of the ladder, I will definitely not be going to any more of their games this season. It's really disappointing from the Broncos this season. They're a team that everyone backs and everyone thinks that they're good. But when you're doing your start of year tips and when you're doing your, previews of the season, they're a team that you expect to be quite high on the ladder, but they fail to exceed your expectations. They very slowly throughout the season. They just drop on the ladder slowly. They start off their season strong, and then they just shrink with
Yeah,
skill. So I'm giving them a C minus at most, probably D plus right now. So I'm
yeah,
not gonna give them an A or anything above that at this rate. But yeah, Titans, they had a pretty nasty. What I mean by that is aggressive, gruely game against Storm. They did. Are they? Do you know if Tino is playing, Professor?
he's playing. Yep.
Yeah, so Tino obviously a really good player, and he's actually quite tall. So that's a very big advantage when you are playing in your tackles. So
Yeah,
Tino's a really good player, and so is Jaden Campbell. They have quite a few stars. So I don't know about this one, Professor. I'm hoping that the Broncos will win, but I'm actually not too sure that they will. So the Titans, I'll probably give them a C plus right now, and I'm going to back probably the Broncos for this one.
yeah, I think so too. It's an absolute must-win for Broncos to keep their season alive. Little P, the Broncos are just meeting my expectations. I never bought into the hype pre-season. I don't think Madge Maguire is a good coach, and if statistically, if you take out his premiership winning year when he was coaching South Sydney Rabbitohs, if you take out New South Wales and coaching New Zealand, which is a very different to coaching an NRL club side, he's mostly a losing coach.
Mm.
So it's not happening. It's not a lot of things going on there. They're just not firing for the Brisbane Broncos. So I give them about a D. For the Titans, I think they're going to win the spoon, and I think Des Hasler will be looking for another job next year. I give them an F. So Sunday, we go down to the nation's capital. It's the second of the table, Canberra Raiders, and they're meeting the Rabbitohs. Now, the Rabbitohs have some returning stars, including Cody Walker coming back into the side. This is a Sunday afternoon match. What do you think, Lil P?
Yeah, well, Professor, the Raiders, they're looking quite high on the ladder. They're, I think, second or third, am I right there?
Yes, second, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the Raiders have been quite outstanding so far this season. I think Tom Starling, Seb Chris, they've all been on their best game. They're very fit this season as well. So, just going back to when you said Stars returning, do you happen to know if Latrell Mitchell will be back?
He'll be back. Yes.
Oh, yes. Well, back in action for Latrell Mitchell. He is probably one of my favourite players in the game. He's very good at tackles. I will say that he's very big, and when you're not the person that you would want to be caught in his arms in a tackle. But yeah, I don't know about the Rabbitohs. They've been not too consistent so far this season. So yeah, I'm probably going to back the Raiders for this one.
Okay. And what's your grading on the Canberra Raiders and the Rabbitohs so far?
Yeah, well, Canberra Raiders probably B plus. I think I don't really need too much reasoning for that. They've been quite outstanding, and then the Rabbitohs probably looking at a C plus. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're not above my expectations, and they're not below. So yeah, C plus for the Rabbitohs and B plus for the Raiders.
Yeah, for Raiders, for me, they've been an A, and in particular, numbers of standout comeback performances, and they've just gotten over the top of sides. They're really young and exciting to watch. I'm going to pick an upset here. I think the Rabbitohs are going to get them, based on the Rabbitohs are quietly travelling not too badly. They've got a lot of star power to come back. My grade on the Rabbitohs would be about a C plus so far, but they've had a lot of injuries. Again, they've got some players coming back now. So we then head into Sunday afternoon, and it's the Tigers, and they're taking on the Panthers.
Yeah, well, Panthers are not looking too good on the ladder, but I think Nathan Cleary and Liam Martin, they were very good in Origin, actually. I think Nathan Cleary, maybe his boot was a bit slippery on State of Origin game. He didn't get all of the conversions, I don't
No.
think, but apart from that, he's a good man on the field, and I think he is quite fast and good with the ball. He does have experience. So, and same with Liam Martin as well. So, Panthers, although they aren't too high up on the ladder, I'd probably give them a C minus.
Right.
Yeah, they're looking around a C minus for them. Yes, I'm probably not going to back the Panthers to win this one.
Okay. Yeah, Tigers for me, about a C+. plus. I think they're doing okay. And now that they have Lockie Galvin, who's left the club, gone to the Dogs, it's been quite a distraction for the players. And now it's just time to knuckle down and focus on the second half of the season. I'd expect the Panthers to win this one. Penrith, well, I mean, they're 14th. They're the four-time premiership winning, consecutive winning team. I give them about a D or an E. They haven't been travelling that well, Lil P. So then on the King's birthday, on Monday, we have the top of the table Dogs. They're taking on the Parramatta Eels. What do you think?
Well, Eels, Professor, they're a team that I find quite interesting. They're not very entertaining to watch, that's coming from my honest side, but I think their stars, Josh Adokar and Mitchell Moses, I just don't understand why these players don't move to teams that are overall better and that they're
Yeah.
actually more likely to win, because they will always be like considered the last strands of the team, they're the last resorts. But yeah, Josh Adokar and Mitchell Moses, I don't know if they should be staying in the Eels from my perspective. And the Eels are very low on the ladder, and those two I was just talking about. They are the only good people on that team from my perspective, as well as Zach Lomax. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna back the Eels to win this one, Professor.
Okay, well, I think the Eels are actually travelling better than their 16th ladder position would suggest. There's some green shoots of grass coming for the Parramatta Eels. They've been close in some of the recent matches that they've played. They've got some young, exciting talent, including their fullback. I don't think they're going to win this contest against the Dogs. I'd grade them about a C or C+, and I can see a team there that's rapidly improving. Bulldogs, well, it's hard not to give them anything less than an A. They're first on the table and deservedly so. So that's it for this week's NRL Banter Box. We'll be back next week where we'll have much to discuss in the Game 2 selections. What will Billy Slater do? We shall see. Will there be any injuries that will affect those State of Origin selections? We shall see. We'll be back early next week. Thanks, Lil P.
Thanks, Professor.